You're listening to Our Space with Matt Batiste.
At what point do we concede and just say the Yuppies have won? The Yuppies are winning. It's an incredible album. Today's guest, Harrison Gordon. Thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
For real, though, when do we just say, you know what, they've won? I feel like they've been winning and have won for so long now.
Probably when every job is a remote marketing job that you can do from your $40,000 Sprinter van that you turned into a camper, and everyone just lives out in like the Rocky Mountains doing freelance marketing work.
But that kind of sounds like a little bit of a dream, but I feel like it's still a lot harder as well, you know?
Yeah, I think it's the dream dream for some people, for sure. If you're like in a band, it's just a reality. People are like, oh, it's so cool. It sounds such like a fun, cool thing to live out a van. And it's like, no, it's not.
Honestly, I think the other day I posted on my Instagram story one of those like wristbands, like which wristband would you choose? And one of them was concerts for a year, unlimited concerts for a year. Another one was like touring with your favorite band. And a lot of people are saying touring with their favorite band, but I'm thinking a lot of my favorite bands, it's not like they're big enough to be flying around in private jets and whatnot. They're probably doing it in like an '06 Chrysler minivan. I don't want to be doing that.
Even a lot of bigger bands anymore are still in like old Ford Transits because it's just our passengers. It just doesn't make sense to, like, you're trying to make money on the road. So at a certain point, it's like, why would we get the giant bus when we're trying to, it's like you wouldn't buy like Louis Vuitton boots to lay concrete in.
Have you been doing much touring lately?
We do a lot of weekender runs and a little bit of stuff. We're kind of just like busy at the moment with like school stuff. Not that we're still playing shows, but we just haven't been able to like be like, all right, everyone take a 2 weeks off life and we'll go and do stuff. This summer, we're going to do a lot more. I was sending emails out this morning.
Yeah, because I was going to say that must actually be helpful when it comes to having a gig. If you did, that could be remote and actually working out of a van that way, because you can actually sort of do some work in the morning as you're touring, right?
There's a lot of bands that do that kind of stuff, a lot more than people would think, because your kind of two only options are, or you have three options. One is to subsist entirely off of music and touring, which is pretty rough, pretty hard. I mean, a lot of people do it, but pretty tough. Some people just do like blue collar stuff where they can work, take 2-month gigs, or, do like, we're going to work on a fertilizer plant for 2 weeks and then we'll call you and we need you to do something else. So you can kind of slot in like, oh, well, I'm going to be gone for a month, but then I can come lay roofing later.
Yeah, I've always wondered how a lot of bands do that, where it's like, you take off for a month or two and then it's okay, home and back to work at day jobs. I think also a lot of people don't even realize that a lot of musicians also have day jobs.
Yeah. Most people don't realize that. And it's because a lot of the bigger artists don't. And it's also because it is a full-time thing. So you don't really assume people are doing 2 full-time things, but a lot of people are. But yeah, I see stuff like that pretty often. I don't really hear about people doing like a lot of in-office stuff, but like a lot of people can move to remote on most of that stuff. And then if you're working remote, you can mostly, manage whatever you have to do during the day while on tour, which I'm sure is really nice. I don't have any of the skill set to be able to get like a remote like marketing job or some shit like that. But people who can do it, I'm like, damn, you kind of got the best of both worlds.
Well, you mentioned you're in school. What are you in school for?
Audio production.
That's a hard one to do on the road as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, anymore, everyone just listens to shit on AirPods. So I think if you're going to mix music, you could just get away with doing it on your AirPods.
Yeah, I guess you could.
That's not what I do. I don't think anyone should do it, but you could do it. And it would sound good, because it would sound really good to everyone who's listening on their AirPods, which is like 60% of people.
It's funny how far things have sort of come. I remember when I was graduating high school and looking for like a program to go into, and I knew that I wanted to do something with music. And I remember going to all like the college and university fairs, and I went to one university fair and I was like, yeah, I want to get into like audio production, but I don't know what type of programs are out there, what colleges or universities in my area were offering that. And one of the professors I talked to was basically saying like, why would you want to do that? Every band is like an indie band now and doing it out of their garage and like out of their basement. Like the audio production industry is going to die. And I'm like, look at how like, I don't know. It's just funny how things have sort of evolved. And anytime there's something sort of new that comes in, we're all like, oh yeah, everything's going to die because of it.
It's like people like talk about like AI in the music world, and I hate most AI shit, like most AI art stuff, but also like AI mastering has been a thing for like a decade now. Like Lander, which is like an AI mastering service, has been available for like years and years. So it's funny. I don't like it when people are making like you ever seen those like AI singers they're coming out with and shit like that? It's like, this is the dumbest shit ever.
I mean, even the songs that they've come out with where it's like, oh yeah, the new Beatles song and half of it is made through AI. I'm like, this is just, it sounds stupid and I don't want to listen to it.
Yeah, exactly. People are like, have you heard the new Beatles song? And I'm like, no, fucking.
It's not the new Beatles song. It's the new AI Beatles
There's no
song.
such thing as a new Beatles song. What the fuck are you talking about?
I know. When people talk about AI taking over like the arts and whatnot, it's just that just sounds like the most ridiculous thing in the world to me.
Yeah, I see it sometimes with like really small local bands will use like AI art for like posters and whatever and stuff, and I'm like I get it. It's because of the limitations thing. Like when I started, it was kind of before any. I don't think I would have used it because I still don't. I still like will make us flyers and stuff, but I'll like rip old movie posters from the 70s with like no shame at all, and then put text over them and use them as like gig flyers. But that's also a limitation thing. It's like I don't really know how to make digital art, so if I want to make gig flyers, I need to rip something. Like
and totally get it on a budget, but it's like you can tell when something's been made with AI and it just doesn't look
weird.
as good.
It's just weird, yeah. It all
if
just
you're
looks
doing it for
fucking
free because you have no budget, sure, it's understandable, but like also at the same time, if you want to make it look better or put the time into it, but that's also why like who's gonna actually be throwing on that new Beatles song and listening to it on, I was gonna say iPod, but like on Spotify.
There's no heart in any of the art.
No.
Because it's just there's kind of some heart in like just shitty gig flyers. Make them readable, please.
But you can also tweak that thing and put a human element into it, right? It's the same way with using AI for like a cover letter. You kind of get that sort of that like foundation, and then you tweak it to make it actually sound human.
Yeah, I see that stuff too.
You can't really do that with music.
I think AI is cool for making really dumb funny stuff.
Yeah,
all those like stupid ass like AI voiceover like songs. That's where this technology has peaked though. Like that's the best it will be.
That's the comedy tools.
That's the least just like using AI to make like. There's one of Plankton singing "Dream On." Fucking rules. But that's the peak. It's like
yes,
because now
I've
that
seen
was
those
like
all over my TikTok.
That was like 4 months ago, and now it's just like mass layoffs. Like we're like, fuck, we moved on so quickly.
We did it.
This got so out of hand so fast. Yeah, the tech industry like every software engineer job just collapsed like 2 months after that.
This is what they meant when they said AI is going to take jobs.
Because last year we had like that really ugly, shitty like AI like image like generating. You know, remember what I'm talking about? Where it was like everyone was using it because it was really funny because it like kind of generated an image, and it would like
expand the image as well.
Yeah,
you put like a real image, and there was one that expanded it, and
that was like this year. But I'm talking like last year, 2020 or 2022, and it was like first the image generation came out, and it would make like really muddy, weird looking images. But people thought it was hilarious because you could be like Muppet Mosh Pit and generate like a hilarious image. And we were like, this is so funny. And now it's like people just like use AI. Like now people are like, I'm an AI artist. And it's like, what has happened? Like we've lost the plot in such a tremendous way. I see that shit on Twitter. I see that shit on Twitter all the time. People have been like, well, it's actually really hard to generate these things. And I'm like, I'm sure, man.
It's hard to think of one sentence to type in and hit enter.
Yeah.
Like you're not doing any of the work.
Bro, you got to know your prompts right. It's like you could just Google. Take like a 10-minute Google video of how to make that shit. You can make whatever you want.
I'm sure there's some guy on TikTok telling me how to use the prompts properly.
Yeah, exactly. Here's how to create the best AI art for your drop shipping business.
I feel like there could be like a good medium between using AI in music, but you just can't use it for the actual song. But I feel like you can use some AI clips in songs almost the same way that we use, TV show clips in songs. Like you've got a clip from The Bear in one of your songs, which I love that clip.
I hope that never gets. I fucked with the audio enough that I don't think they're ever going to notice. But that was people get away with more stuff than they think.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot out there that's a lot worse.
Yeah, and usually they just want your money. Like they don't want your shit taken down. They're just like, all right,
and just give us a cut or all of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd be like, all right, you want a cut for one of the third worst performing song on the record? Cool. You want $200? I got you.
But it's such a staple within like the Midwest emo sort of genre of taking clips from TV shows that I just wonder how so many other bands get away with it, or do they give the money to?
I don't know, because I don't really think you can get. I mean, like you can get samples cleared, but like if you're a small artist, it's like you're not going to get. Like even if you can't even really. Who the fuck do you reach out to? You know what I mean? Like, can I use this clip?
Yeah, that's a whole other question.
So I don't know. I think they just get away with it because it's like it's I don't know. Those automatic detectors are really dumb. Like they're really bad at certain stuff, and so they just don't detect. If you have like a bunch of I put like a bunch of reverb and like pushed it up like a tone.
And that'll be enough.
Yeah, like a half step up, and then with like delay on it.
Half the time on YouTube, you can find like full episodes of TV shows, and all they did was invert it.
Yeah. Or they'll do like episodes of Family Guy. Will do the same thing. They'll just like push it up half a step, like the noise, and speed it up a little bit.
See, this is where AI needs to catch on a little bit with that.
Yeah. Although they use the AI to make shit. You ever seen like they'll take animations and try and make them like 60 frames per second by just using like AI motion blurring. And they're like, look at how that. I see it pretty often because it's like a lot of stuff's like 30 frames and they try and make it 60 and they're like, look at how smooth it is. Because essentially all it's doing is it's creating like weird smooth frames between every 30 frames. And so you're just like, no, it just looks like shit now. It just looks like you ever go to like your aunt's TV and has like all the motion blur on.
Yeah.
And you're like, turn this shit off. It's like, it's basically that. And they're like, look at how smooth it looks. You're like, yeah, it's gross.
Do you have like a favorite from anyone else? A favorite TV clip? From a song?
Scotty Spliffin by the band Dikembe.
Oh, yes.
Has a How I Met Your Mother bit. I think that's How I Met Your Mother.
I think it was Freaks and Geeks.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. I'm thinking because
it's Jason Segel.
Yeah. I always want to say Steven. And then I'm like, nope, totally different guy. Such a different guy. Yeah. And that clip rules, and it's especially good because it's half of the song.
Yeah, it is half of the song, but like it makes the song.
Yeah, because it's like that, and it's just that, and then it's like an outro, and you're like, "This is fucking awesome."
I love the Mom Jeans sample from Bob's Burgers.
Oh, that one's really good too. Yeah.
Just because they say mom jeans in it, like it's perfect for the band.
Yeah, it feels like a theme song.
Yeah.
No, I that one's really good too. I forgot about that. I'm trying to think what else. This isn't from like a TV show, but there's a Bomb Music Industry song that has this random boom bap bit at the end. It's really funny. It's called 25. And the ending bit is just this like song. It's like, number one, I live at my mama house. Number one, I live at my mama house. And it cuts in like the moment the actual song ends. So it's like, it's not even like a seamless transition. It's just jarring and weird. And I think it's so funny.
Your song Kirby Down B, it's gone viral a few times. I'm curious actually how you feel about that song and its virality.
I mean, it's cool. I think there's this kind of like idea that a lot of people like hate, like artists hate whatever their most popular thing is, or like kind of resent it, which I get after like a decade. But I've always kind of like I hated that sentiment with bands. I've always like kind of like everyone kind of always hates bands that like feel like they're like too good for their whatever their most popular thing is. If it's like, oh well, we've grown so much from that. It's like I get it, but also like people, you should just be like open to what people like. and why.
And it's like you made a connection with people with that song, even though you've sort of grown out of it. A lot of people still have that connection to it, right?
Yeah, like the only thing I resent about about Kirby is that I can't get another video to do that same amount of numbers on any other song, and I'm like, God damn it, let me have another win. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I think it's cool. It definitely propelled us to a different level, and it got people to listen to our other stuff, which I think is cool. It got people to listen to the full record, which I think is the important thing. Because it's like that's what the goal of those videos was, right? Is to post that so that people would go listen to the song and then go listen to the full record and be like, whoa, this is all good. And that's so I don't know. I think the virality's cool. We always kind of joke about being like a TikTok band, just because it's funny to say. And it's like kind of true, but only to a point, because it's like we play shows. We've existed beyond that before, and now still like it's.
Yeah, I think the TikTok band label sort of like you can joke about that, but I feel like really, unless you're sort of at the point where maybe you have 1 million followers, but you can't even get 3 people out to a show, I feel like that's the definition of a TikTok band.
Not naming names because I don't really have any like specific in mind. There's that's a thing. Like there's for sure a thing of a disconnect between bands who have like an extraordinary like my thing is it's like what metric do you have the most? Like if your monthly listeners is higher than any of your followings, you're doing it right. But if it's like way higher than any of your followings, then it's like, what's up with this? Like,
well, it's just a matter of converting, right?
Yeah. And there's a lot of people who are trying to do the right thing and going about it in the wrong way. Not so much that they're like lying or botting stuff, but a lot of people are like we've had some people reach out to us who want to like help us out, but all they want to help us out with is be like, we can make your Spotify monthly listeners and streams go up. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, well, we want to go play shows and have a bunch of people show up to the shows and buy some merch and want to, get records signed and take pictures. And they're like, well, we can get your monthly listeners up to 300,000. We can put you on all the right playlists. And you're like, oh, is that all that? You know what I mean? Like, because it's one of those things where it all feeds back into itself. That's the metric that like booking agents and record labels and everybody looks at first. And so if we just focus on pumping that one up because the people focus on looking at it first, then you can, it becomes, it's like, this guy was telling me about like an artist he had with like 20 million monthly listeners, which is just like, that's just such an absurd. And I was like, I've never heard of this before. Like I've never heard this person before in my fucking life. Just like, and then you go and check the Instagram, and the Instagram's like 30,000 followers, and you're like, that's a disconnect,
Yeah, something's not mathing right now.
Yeah, like math isn't, and it's not that they're like lying or like botting streams, because I don't want to make any accusations about anybody I don't know, but it's just like that. Then you're like, okay, so that what you were talking about, that like translating it over, that converting, it's like, oh. It's not exactly like, that's not the key. The key is kind of the social media stuff, I think. But just posting like clips of your shows, or like I'll post like acoustic videos of me playing, because that's how you get people to be a fan of your work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Posting the music to the point where you get people that actually want to come and see that song perform live.
Yeah. And that's like most of our comment section on videos is like, when are you coming to Salt Lake City? When are you coming to Alabama, and it's like, that's cool, because that shows that there's an interest. And I like that. It's sometimes it feels a little pestering, but I very much appreciate it.
I'm happy that you said that, because, and I've mentioned this on the podcast before when talking to a few other people, because I feel like there might be like a fine line between pestering artists, but also at the same time, you almost want to still let them know, like, hey, if you come to the city, I'm going to show up and you're going to have people there, right? Like, you don't want to be that annoying person, but at the same time,
it's never like annoying. I have friends in other bands, and I when they tell me, they're like, oh yeah, whenever someone does it, I'm just like, where should we play? Like, who should we talk to? Because that's kind of the thing. It's like, people are like, you got to come play in the city, and I'm like, that's cool, man, but I have no idea. I don't know any bands there like to play with. I don't know what venues are good. Like, can you tell me a venue to play? And then, you either get good info from them or kind of silence back. And you're like, okay, cool. I'll just keep working on what I'm working on. Right. And it's like, we want to play everywhere, but we need to know, like, we need to figure out like what's there, and like, if we play there, how many kids are going to come out.
And are you independent right now?
Yeah.
So you're doing this all on your own, or do you have a booking agent, a manager, or anything like that?
I'm as independent as they get.
When people are recommending you to come to their city, mentioning a venue or something definitely
Yeah, exactly.
helps.
It's like, give me an email. Throw me out a fucking email or like a band to play with. You know what I mean? But when that does happen, that's like the best. They're like, hey, I run this place in fucking Houston, come through. I'm like, nice. Like, I book shows with blank in Houston.
Well, I don't know if you're able to come up north of the border, but I have a few connections up here. I can get you in to do a gig up in Toronto.
We've been thinking about it because Toronto is not crazy far. Like running like Detroit and then Toronto and then kind of up and back isn't crazy for us. I think we're going to try doing that in the fall, though.
Yeah, a lot of bands will sort of do the Detroit and then kind of come across the border up to Toronto, back down, and kind of hit like Buffalo or Boston, like, go back down. And there's just sort of, it's so easy to jump across the border from Detroit or from Buffalo especially, because I think it's like an hour and a half drive. It's not far.
Oh, nice. I just always forget how close like Michigan and Canada are, because we're playing in Lansing like in 2 weeks, or not 2 weeks, in a few weeks. And a couple people are like coming from Toronto or from Canada, and I'm like, oh yeah. I was like, whoa. And then I was like, oh wait, that's probably like the same distance as like me to Chicago. Like, it depends on where they're coming from.
Yeah, it depends on what part, right? Because if they're coming from Toronto to Detroit, I think it's like 4 or 5 hours. Buffalo's like a couple of hours, and there's some parts that are like right across the border.
Yeah,
but if they're coming from like BC, that's a different story, because that's a flight.
Yeah. No, I assume these people are from like either Toronto or somewhere else, because we're playing like the middle of Michigan.
And are you playing a lot of house shows along your tour right now, or is that more so at home? Because I've seen some of your flyers. It looks like you're doing some house shows, some bars.
At home, there's a couple places we'll play, but like we've kind of outgrown any of the houses around here, just because we bring in more kids than like you can do at any of them. And I don't know. I don't really like being like at capacity at places and having to turn people away. That shit sucks.
Yeah.
Other places we're playing houses, but we're trying to kind of pull that back and only play like, if we're going to play a house venue, we really only want to play like really well established, really cool places. Just because we're at a point where like everyone's had shitty house show experiences. We're not trying to play at your, basement, your standing water filled basement that with a 5.5 foot tall ceiling and like donation bucket. It's like, maybe, it's like, not to be like a dick and be like, oh, fuck you guys, like you guys suck. It's just like, now we have to be serious about it, but we still like playing if it's like well-renowned good spots. It's like, yeah, we'll play. Like, house shows are fun.
There's always this, like, I guess, romanticized side of house shows in the genre, right?
Oh yeah. And if you can play good, fun, cool ones, it's fun. The only problem is it gets hard to like, that's the main reason I'm like, we're only trying to play like well-established ones, is because like we need to sell merch. And so many times you pull up and you're like, hey, where can we sell merch? And they're like, oh, I don't know. And you're like, dude, this is like you don't have anyone collecting door money. We drove 4 hours. We just want to sell.
Everybody's friends are just showing up for free. And,
exactly. We're like, we just want to sell some fucking t-shirts. That's where it's like, it's kind of hard
to fund this somehow.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to try to play places that aren't like well established.
Well, it's really cool. I saw that recently you printed your first set of records for the Uppies Are Winning, and that sold out in an hour. Yeah,
it was like I think it was about 2 hours. It was about 300 records online in about 2 hours. That blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize we had I didn't realize the demand on records, because we'd had a bunch of people been like,
there's a big demand.
Can't wait to see you guys press this. But like, it was just like, oh wow, that was crazy. And so now we're reprinting, and we had a ton of people who were like yelling at me in the DMs that they were at school and couldn't get them. I was like, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna hold on to one for you.
Can't just reserve them.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I feel that too. I got caught up when Movements finally re-released Feel Something. I've been waiting for so long for them to reprint that, and they did it on like 2:00 on a Monday while I was busy at work, and then I saw it when it was sold out, and I was like, no. So I definitely feel for those people, but I mean, I think that you selling out your very first pressing of a record, especially as an independent artist, within a few hours, like that's really exciting. That's big. I think that goes back to our conversation of converting on the fans that you do have, right?
Yeah.
Like you converted almost instantly. Like that's impressive. Do you plan on doing another batch of those records?
Yeah, we're working on them right now. We're working on we want to do a different look for the second press. I really want to do a half black, half yellow. I think that's because right now we have like this like splatter, which is pretty cool, like a clear with a black and yellow splatter. I'm like, that's really nice. And then we have this other one that's we call snot, because it kind of came out like it's like a yellow with black kind of mixed together, but it came out as a lot of like snot greeny. And I didn't like them when I saw them, like they first sent me, but like people were like super digging those ones.
I think branding them as snot really helps.
Yeah, I think so too. But I really want to do like a black and yellow or an all yellow. I just think it's cool to do like different versions for each press if we can, because it's like it feels like an exclusive thing. Because there were some people I know who bought both copies because there were two different variants, and so they were like, I need both, and I'm like, that's crazy.
Man, record collectors are crazy.
I know.
And they spend the money. And I'm one of them, but I have to like force myself not to do that because it's way too much money. The amount of times I'm just like, ooh, I want two variants, but like I just need to pick one because I'm not going to spend $45 on, two records each. It comes out to, $90. It's just way too much money for the same record.
Oh, for real. Luckily, we kept everything pretty affordable at these runs. We ended up being able to put them out for $25.
Yeah,
which felt really good. That was one thing I'd always wanted to make vinyl, but I always see like smaller bands who fund their own vinyl because you just don't have the connections. You have to go through some like demand like kind of print on demand thing, and it ends up being like they have to pay $40 to $40 to sell them to make a little bit like $5 profit on them, and you're like, that fucking sucks. Like.
So did you find like someone local for this one?
We went through Field Day Records, who are based out of Dallas, and they specialize in doing like limited small run. So that's how we got like the really cool, like two different variants and at a good prices, because that's kind of all they do. All they do is small runs of stuff for like, they do a lot of like bigger albums, but as like 10-year anniversary, limited edition kind of stuff.
Okay. So are you going to be going through them again and do another sort of smaller limited run for the next one? Or are you going to try to sort of, with the next one, make it a bit bigger and maybe even take some like on tour with you or something?
I think we're going to do it with them, because I actually do have a bunch with me still. Because I have a bunch for me personally to move on tour. So I've got like a couple cases of them.
Oh, nice.
So that's nice. Because it's always good to have stuff in person for people.
Yeah, exactly. Especially at shows. I think people also love buying records at shows too.
Yeah, it feels nice to go home with like a cool thing.
It saves them on the shipping fees too. Sometimes if I know that I'm going to a concert at some point in the year and I know there's like a record, I'll just sort of wait till I see the band and buy it at the show, because I'm like, it'll save me on the shipping cost. It's also extra expensive in Canada. Buying records and shipping them.
It means a lot when you're on the road to make merch sales, because it just helps keep everything going. It just stays in the rotation.
Do you make more profit by buying merch on the road compared to online, just because there's less? I know there's a whole conversation about venues taking a cut.
Yeah, we usually don't play venues that take cuts just because we're smaller, and so it's mainly like a bigger venue thing. Pretty much no venue. I can't say no. I don't know what the scenes are like in the really big cities, but no venue we've played that's bigger than like that's smaller than like 500 are going to be taking merch cuts from bands, as far as I know. At least all the independent places. Yeah. And so it's definitely better on tour, because you can, especially if it's like cash or Venmo, you can really, cheat the system a little bit. And also you don't have to pay any of the online carrier fees or whatever. All that stuff adds up after a while. Like it's usually only like 10% of your profit cut or 15% at most. But it also is just nice because it's like it's like right there. Like
and then you can grab $50 and actually fill up the van.
Yeah, now we're like, cool, we got $20. Like, so I definitely, for people out there, advise ordering stuff from bands when they're on the road if you can. Obviously, if you want to buy a t-shirt from a band and they haven't announced any tour, or if their tour's in like 6 months, any support is support. Like, there's no wrong way to go about it. But yeah, I think like if you're at a show and you're like, oh, should I buy that now or should I just wait later and try and get it online? It's like,
just buy it now.
Just buy it now. Yeah.
Also, once again, save it on the shipping fees. Why are you going to buy it after when, you're right there and it's there in front of you?
No
and you
sales
can have
tax, no shipping.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what is the best way as an independent artist for fans to support you?
Definitely picking up some merch. Our Bandcamp, like when people send us just money on the Bandcamp, is super cool, of course, because that's just like a tip jar pretty much online for us. That's a really good way. Honestly, if you're going to ask about shows and stuff, like send me a venue, send me like a contact if you can. Obviously, not everyone has all the connects, so it's no problem on that front. But streaming the music, sharing it with people is really big, like close friends and just like people if you think they'd like it, that's always super cool. That's kind of what means a lot, is just being like, hey, dude, you got to check this out, is where a lot of that kind of momentum comes from. Because now all of a sudden, instead of having, one guy want to come see us in Philly, now we've got, him and his 4 buddies who all blasted in the car. And it's like, okay, perfect. Like, that's where the growth starts to happen. So really any way you can support us is great. Like, there's no wrong way to support a band. Even if it's just like posting a TikTok using one of our songs or some shit like that. It's like all that shit is like so helpful because it's on the grounds. It's like, what can you do for this is really cool. Like, that's kind of the modern music landscape.
Yeah, and it kind of takes it back to being the old school method of marketing a band of, I like this band here, go and check them out.
Yeah.
It's the reason why I wanted to start this podcast, because I know, honestly, the second I started having some videos pop up, a lot of them being nostalgia based, I'm like, well, there's so many people that like the music that I grew up listening to, but I also listen to so much more. And I just love how emo has evolved, that I'm like, how can I give back to the music industry and the music that gave me so much? And why not just spread the word of some up and coming artists and connect with people like yourself? So I'm really happy that you agreed to come on. And I hope that a lot of people listen to the show and they check you out. Typically at the end of each episode, I ask the person that I'm talking to who their favorite up and coming band is right now, to sort of spread the love. And I'll ask you that now. Like, who do you think other people should be checking out? Who do you think deserves more love right about now?
There is a lot of stuff. I'll give a couple. If you're a big and some of these people are probably going to know these aren't like super duper small bands. These are people who are already coming up that I think you like, more so than be like, you guys need to help these bands. It's like, get on this before you're too late, and they're already huge. If you're into any of the third wave stuff, like if you're like a big like Taking Back Sunday, My Chemical fan, Ben Quad is fantastic.
Love Ben Quad.
So good. Because they blend kind of that like third wave like pop sensibility in with like crazy math rock riffs and like really just tight drumming and like really catchy hooks. Arcadia Gray is one of my favorite bands. They got a new album coming out. I haven't heard it yet, but I'm sure it's great. Summer Brews, same thing. Super duper good. Smaller band. We're touring with Trash this summer. Definitely a band worth checking out, especially if you like tiny moving parts kind of stuff, like clean guitar, math rock stuff. Those are the big ones for me.
I got to ask you, I know I said I asked this towards the end of the thing, but I'm just really enjoying the conversation and want it to continue. You a big fan of Pup?
Oh, yeah.
Pup's because I hear a lot of Pup influence in your songs.
Oh, yeah. Let me make a hat change. I got my...
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, probably my favorite band, at least close. It's one that surprisingly we don't get compared to as much as I think
Really?
we should. Just
that
because
was
it's like
the first band when I was listening to on my first run of because like with I guess Kirby Down B, I didn't necessarily hear it right away. Now I hear it a lot.
Yeah.
But when I was listening to the album, I'm just like, this is pop mixed with, I'd say like a Hot Mulligan or something.
Yeah, tight. Yeah, no, that's like the band we rip the hardest. So I'm always surprised that we don't get we get it like for sure sometimes, but it's funny because it's like we get like a lot. I think it's also because like on TikTok you get such a diverse pool of people that a bunch of people say it sounds like a bunch of stuff that I'm like, all right, like for sure.
What's the weirdest thing that you've heard that you sound like?
I'm trying to think. A lot of people will be like, say we sound like My Chem. I'm like, I don't hear that in the slightest. Because I'm not really a My Chem fan that much, which I'm gonna get burned at the stake for, but whatever. Just bands that I'm like, oh, okay. People say we sound like the Front Bottoms. I'm like, okay, I don't know where it like.
I can hear the Front Bottoms a lot more than My Chem, that's for sure.
Yeah. Which is because like I was definitely a Front Bottoms fan in high school, like heavily.
But also just because I think I can kind of hear that like Midwest emo sort of vibe in some of your songs. And I feel like the Front Bottoms are just like one of those notorious, like, oh, okay, Midwestern emo Front Bottoms type of bands, you know?
Yeah. And especially like on the vocals probably more than anything else. Because we don't really play like, our songs aren't very Midwest emo-y. Like,
no, I just hear the influence into it, but you're not, you know.
And we don't like. We claim to be like an emo band because it's like I don't know. People could probably make a good argument that we're more pop punk than emo. Like I polled our audience and it was like 50-50, but I was like, I don't really want to be assigned as a pop punk band because I just don't think like. It just feels like loaded at this point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like there's such like a specific like idea of what that means. And it's like, I don't know if we really fit that, like the modern definition. Because then I hear
don't want to be put side by side with MGK.
No, of course not. Yeah. But even like stuff like the Wonder Years and stuff, like really good music. It's like, we're not super in that sphere or like Blink or like Story So Far, even though those are all big influences, but it just is kind of loaded because it's like pop punk means so much anymore. And also just like being thrown in as like when we first started, we called ourselves like an indie punk band because there was kind of more of like an indie rock kind of songwriting tinge to it. And that's kind of fallen out. It's also like, I always associate indie rock or indie punk with like Fiddler and the Fright style, like SoCal, like surf shit.
Yeah.
And we're not really like big influences,
like
but we're not really that.
The pop punk and the emo can all just kind of sort of blend together. And I feel for a lot of people, they do these days.
Yeah.
It's sort of hard to categorize a lot of bands because you're like, well, are they pop punk or are they emo or are they punk or are they, you know, like, are they Midwest emo? What are they?
Yeah.
I just feel like for me, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like that's just the scene. And all of those fit into the scene.
That's
and like
us.
You've got your influences, right?
Yeah, that's us. Like I don't think we fit very comfortably into any of those, even though it's not like what we're making is like super like game changing, genre breaking, right? It's not like what it's like. I don't think it's like super uninspired or anything, but it's not like what we're making is like intentionally, you know, new sound. It doesn't feel like it's like we're paving a way for a new sound no one's ever heard before. So it's kind of funny that it's like we defy whatever like a genre like title in that way, because it's
I think we just need to classify you and do what Hot Mulligan did and just put you in post emo.
Yeah, exactly. A band I love, Kerosene Heights, who also definitely should check out. They just say emo punk, and I'm like, oh, I guess that works.
Yeah,
works. That sounds pretty right. But even then, like. Then it kind of lumps you in with more of like the Scrams emo hardcore stuff, and it's like, fuck, we don't sound like that at all. What is this?
We're just making just a good one to stop.
I get why at certain points bands are like, we just make rock music. I'm like, yeah, I get it. And I always hated that. It sounded corny, and now I'm like, I get it. It must be so easy.
But
like,
just saying rock, like I'm thinking like AC/DC, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So whenever we like hit up venues, we just say like pop punk / emo band.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay.
I know.
Or we'll just say Midwest emo because we're emo from the Midwest, but we're not Midwest emo. I don't know anymore.
Yeah, I know that there's California bands that are Midwest emo, but they're not from the Midwest. So is that Midwest emo?
Then there's us who are an emo band from the Midwest, but we're really not Midwest emo. It's like,
yay, categories.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, man. I really enjoyed talking
thanks
with
for having
you.
me.
Yeah, and I think everyone needs to go and check out your record. And do you have any new music coming out anytime soon that you'll be able to promote?
No, nothing super duper soon. Working on some stuff. Definitely got some stuff in the hole that we're hoping to have out by this summer. But kind of taking our time. We want to make something that feels really meaningful and special.
And what's your Instagram and TikTok handle? Where can people find you?
Instagram is HarrisonGordon_IL. I think TikTok is the same. And on Spotify, it's just Harrison Gordon.
All right, you got to check out Harrison Gordon. Check out his songs. They are fantastic. Support independent artists. And once again, thank you so much for taking the time to come onto the show today.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Our Space with Matt Batiste. If you enjoyed yourself, please support the show by subscribing and leaving a review.